Welcome back to the Mixed Signal podcast. Every week we unpack the visual qualities and trending topics of design and pop culture. I'm not gonna lie, we got a jam-packed episode for y'all today. We started off hot with our fun topic of the week by comparing architecture schools to Hogwarts and the magical education system in Harry Potter. Trending topics include, does the Obama Presidential Center look like a huge trash can? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And on the flip side, we look at the proposed MAGA-sized Arch de Trump. And don't think we weren't on it, we broke down the Louvre heist and how the thieves found their way into the museum. The artist spotlight this episode revolves around the photographic work of Robert Benson, who documents a strange but blinged out subculture of truck modding in Japan known as Decatura. And if you can, follow us on Spotify and YouTube, like it, share it with a friend. It helps a lot in pushing out our podcast to listeners like you. With that said, let's jump into the episode.
I do have a topic that I want to start with. So Nora's finally getting to this fun age, my daughter, where we can start watching movies that I guess previously just weren't on her list. And the other day we were watching Harry Potter. And
which one?
Harry
Potter?
The first one. My wife's a big Harry Potter fan. I actually, to be honest, kind of missed it somehow when I was a kid. Like, I read some of the books when I was a little kid, but I never really saw the movie, so I was enjoying it. I'd never really seen it. And then at some point in the middle, my wife was like, going to Hogwarts must be a lot like going to architecture school. Like, you kind of show up to this weird place with all these wizards. Like, we're the weird wizards that are like teaching, spells and stuff. And like, that's our methodology stuff. And they join a house, like maybe they're a technical person or they're more into design or whatever. And it was just like a fun analogy. And I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that. But I do think that that's an interesting way to read architecture school as a little mini Hogwarts.
I'm part of the house that wears all black, just like...
Which one is that?
The Slithers or whatever the hell
Slytherin? Slytherin? That's known for its
Snakes?
Ambition, cunning, leadership, and resourcefulness.
I don't know about Wally. I feel like I've only seen you wear all black like twice. I feel like
he's wearing all black right now, bro.
But I feel like I always see you in like some like super colorful jumper and joggers.
You know why? Because I'm trying. Also, I wear that yellow jacket that Anthony called me Juicy Fruit from that. Okay? Actually, no, he calls me Juicy Fruit because I gave him some Juicy Fruit gum.
That is so funny.
Matt calls me Juicy Fruit because he thinks that name comes from my yellow jacket. Look, when I was younger, we'll go back to the topic, but real quick with the yellow thing. I used to play a video game, and it was Need for Speed, and I always had this Ferrari with yellow because I loved yellow. And to be manly about it, I was like, this is death yellow. Okay, this is death yellow that I'm wearing because I wanted to be a man because yellow was like associated with the Power Ranger.
What about Ferrari yellow? Ferrari red.
I know, but like again, when you were that age, Power Rangers was the top media product.
So you were the Yellow Ranger?
No, dude, it was death yellow. Okay, death yellow, bro. Get that in your head.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you the Yellow Ranger.
Let's forget the podcast. We're gonna do a bunch of BuzzFeed tests. What house are you in Harry Potter? Which Power Ranger?
I wanted a reading on you guys. Like, what houses are we all in?
So I don't know as much about Harry Potter, but I do have a Pottermore account,
what is that?
I'm Slithermore on that.
What is that?
Wait, you do what?
Pottermore?
What is that?
I don't know. You like have a personality test. It gives you the little animal.
Oh God!
And then it puts you in a house.
So what house are you in?
Slithermore.
You're Slytherin?
Yeah.
I thought you'd be Ravenclaw. It says it values.
Is there a side to Christiana we just have never seen?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've not seen it.
Okay.
So I will say I was really disappointed in my Pottermore account because I really wanted the deer animal, and I got like a bird.
The animated sort of.
What's wrong with being a bird?
Why do we keep talking about deer with you in this podcast? Like, I feel like this is a theme that should
really
keep coming
deer.
up. I know.
But without that having assigned me something, maybe I'm the Ravenclaw or the
Why Ravenclaw?
I think she's a Ravenclaw because I'm just reading right here because Ravenclaw values intelligence, learning, wisdom, and wit. And I was trying to give you some credit. I feel like that's.
Thanks.
And what's a Hufflepuff?
I'm a Hufflepuff.
Okay, what's that?
Yeah, I value hard work, patience, loyalty, and fair play.
I mean, my character in the series is definitely Luna Lovegood. I'm like a space cadet.
So what do you think I am based off what you're reading?
You'd be a Slytherin.
I think you're either Gryffindor or Slytherin. You're either good or evil.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
because
you're
a
little
contrarian.
both. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Nothing
always.
lukewarm. Yeah.
And Nihar, what are you?
I've been told Gryffindor or Ravenclaw.
I think you're Gryffindor.
Give me the Gryffindor again.
So this house is associated with courage, bravery, daring, and chivalry. I think you're Gryffindor.
That's like the hero house. They're like
Fuck
all
that. I don't even want that.
Okay,
all
you're
the
Slytherin for
characters
sure.
are the heroes. Yeah, and then
He's a
Slytherin's
Sith.
like dehumanizes the bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't do that. That sounds like some neocon bullshit.
No, yeah.
But in terms of it being like architecture school,
Yeah, what do you think about
let's see. So I kind of agree that you come in thinking that you're hot shit, and then your instructor's like, no, I'm not interested in your fucking spells. I don't care what you can actually do.
Yeah. You
I'm gonna
levitated a
show
book. Who cares?
Yeah, you could levitate a book. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
watch this.
Try doing that with your fart. Okay. It's like you got to think about the perspective of the student versus the master in this case. And in some cases, I think Harry Potter doesn't do justice because the student ends up becoming like this, amazing person that saves the school, blah, 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 or whatever. It's like, okay, cool. I guess there's always that one student
Sometimes.
that is
Yeah.
the unicorn. And maybe I kind of revealed the unicorn theory, but maybe later.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, so we're looking at Christiana's account.
There's no portrait. It's just a black square.
I don't know. I probably just didn't give myself a...
Wait, is that a picture of you? No, it is an image of her. It's just really dark.
Oh, it's just because I'm
Yeah.
like a
Oh, wait, is this the
vampire and I
chick that
don't-
disappears? Isn't there a chick that disappears in Harry Potter that's
Chick
like...
is a derogatory term, by the way.
No, it's not.
The morning
We're woke
lady
here.
in the bathroom or whatever?
Yeah.
Moaning Myrtle?
Yeah, thank you. See, Maggie, this was perfect.
Okay,
for this
anyway,
topic.
sorry, Waleed, I cut off
I
your...
have no idea what I was saying.
Can I finish what you were starting to say? Because I think you're getting to the point
Oh,
about
yeah,
like...
apparently Slytherin has an unfortunate reputation.
Let's go.
Well, I think Waleed has an unfortunate reputation. So.
Hey, look, I'm even representing in my cup today.
What do you mean?
What does that mean?
Green.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
Sometimes I don't understand how your brain works. How the hell do you think we're supposed to figure that out? How the fuck am I supposed to find that out? I thought they're black.
Hey, it doesn't say anywhere about Death Yellow, so
They wear black. You see them
They
wear
wear black, but their color is silver and...
Hufflepuff is yellow? I thought they were pink.
Let's go. I'm a Hufflepuffer.
I thought you weren't a Hufflepuff. You were shitting on Hufflepuff.
I know, but if they're wearing death yellow, I'm cool. I'm with
Okay.
it.
All right, you're a nerd then.
Yellow and black, dude, that's my favorite combination right there. Let's go.
Look, in reality, the houses probably all represent a piece of us. Don't you think?
I
it
don't think
also
so.
says Hufflepuff is humble. I don't know about that one.
I'm not humble.
He's not humble. He's not a Hufflepuff. He's a Slytherin.
Okay, so in terms of, let's go back to the school thing. We are so disjointed today. So if the characters in Harry Potter, the students somehow end up saving the school, right? That kind of correlates to my theory in school. There tends to be a few unicorn students that are just legit, okay? And
They have
Nihar and
powers
the-
they don't even understand yet.
Right. And so you
Yeah.
could, like, we all as instructors can tell who the unicorns are pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think you have a unicorn and they turn out to be a dud, but that's rare. Unicorns always excel. You can always tell that they just have a sensibility beyond others. It actually sometimes has nothing to do with how hard they work. It's just,
Sometimes.
that's
Sometimes.
I
But
mean,
they
is
usually are the
correlated
hard
because
work.
if you're doing good, you're going to keep it gives you incentive to do better, right? Where if you're having a hard time, you're most likely to have your effort squandered by the fact that you're not doing well, right? So you're like, I'm not interested in this because I'm not doing well. That's a normal human behavior.
Yeah.
I think that's the theory of why unicorns keep doing well. One group of demographic
Uh-oh.
that excels very well, and another demographic in this is kind of the gender demographics does better than others. And this actually has a lot to do with, I was kind of listening and reading about how it's actually men that do worse than women in schools. I find it to be pretty apparent in architecture school. And I've done some light reading and research on this that men feel like, especially at a younger age, they get outperformed by females.
Absolutely.
Athletically speaking, when they're in middle school, they feel because women, I think, biologically get more developed quicker. And then in terms of the development of the brain, they perform better at school. So men end up having kind of this kind of gripe against women, I think. And I think that's kind of where the manosphere thing starts to kind of grow larger and larger. And because of the internet, it gets even echoed further that the reasons why my life sucks is because women think they're better than me. And the anger
Bro,
gets
you
pushed
took this
in.
to a really serious,
I know.
dark place.
And we-
Jesus
and
Christ.
we
I was
could
trying to
cut this
talk
all
about
out.
the fun, whimsical world of architecture school.
And how that's happening in Harry Potter and everyone hates Hermione.
But the thing is,
Oh my
but
gosh,
the thing
it's
in Harry Potter is it's still, and I think because the authors maybe, I don't know, I don't know her opinions on a lot of stuff. I know her opinion on trans stuff.
I was going to say,
Yeah, but she makes the male the hero, right?
The poor guy that got shot down.
Yeah, and I get why that would be written that way for it's unfortunate if you make a story about a woman, a lot of times it's not going to get received well by the masses, especially if the masses is controlled by men. And I guess we come back to this kind of does it speak to reality? Because in my perception, the Harry Potter would be a female.
yeah, no, you're not wrong.
And so it's weird how
If it was a real
media-
life story, Harry Potter should be
and,
a female.
And females are going to excel more than males until they reach a certain age where they kind of meet in the middle, right?
Maggie
But
just
that-
wrote Hermione does everything. Which
I was
think
going
is
to
great.
say, but that model you're talking about of female, that is the character of Hermione being top of her
Did you
class.
just say Hermione?
Isn't that her name?
That's not her name.
It's up in the air. It's British, so
Okay.
you can
I don't
interpret
know.
however you want.
I've seen like the first 2 movies and then gave up. But yeah, she's like the top student. She solves everything
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah.
And like Ron and Harry just like putz
Yeah.
around and I don't know, pet dragons.
Anyway, we can cut all this all out, but
We shouldn't cut it out. I'm happy you brought it up.
And it comes to mind, it's so different from my experience in school. I mean, I wonder if my professors also thought the girls were performing well, but there was such a connection my male professors had with the guy students. So as you're saying, like the guys become the unicorns. I felt like there was, I don't know. I mean,
can you
think
talk more about that? I'm actually interested from your perspective how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it falls flat, but there's something to like the bro culture that I think happens at a studio desk crit where it's like guy student, guy professor kind of like rile each other up. They have this kind of buddy thing that extends beyond architecture maybe.
Right.
It's like football or baseball or whatever. There's a connection. And so it's almost like you have this other kind of language, whereas with certainly as a young female student and an older male professor, there's like lines
There's
like
some
we're here to
barriers,
talk, we're here for business.
Yeah.
And like I wonder too how much that shows up as the females in our school is like, yeah, they're here for business. It's not like chit chat,
Yeah.
like social time.
I'm happy you said that though, because like I'm acutely aware of that, and I'm actually very sensitive to that. I worry about that a lot. So like when I'm doing desk crits, I try not to do that. Like I try really hard. Like, hey, let's be about business with everybody. And actually, if anything, I try to give. It's like, hey, if somebody just did more work, and like we're saying, it's often the female students that are just prepared, ready, things work. I try to give them more time. I'm like, hey, look, you brought more work. Let's talk about it. But I'm happy you're saying that because I think that's something we have to be really careful about.
Niar, what's your thoughts?
I mean,
He's asleep, actually. So his midterms today. He's a hero for being here.
What's your perception on this?
I definitely think that
Does it exist?
I think unicorns do exist. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you were talking about these students that kind of like stand out more than the rest, and I definitely know, or like they're the top of the class. And I've talked about this with other people, and like in our year, I have like. For me, what I would consider my top 3, I won't say names, but like I consider them the top 3. And now there's one student, she is one of the, I guess, well-decorated students in our year, but I think she performs so consistently. I kind of agree with what Waleed says, is that like when I think about like people who show up to pinups with missing work or desk crits with nothing, or they just skip class entirely, it is primarily men. But the work that I've seen from women has been a lot more consistent and of higher quality. But I think when it comes to the unicorns, I get what he means. Like there's like a steady line for that's much higher, but then you kind of have this like bigger like bandwidth.
The contrast is so clear,
Yeah.
and I think you articulated that very well. I mean, part of it is I'm just saying that, like you said, these students don't tend to show up with the work. They're missing a lot of the stuff. A lot of female students just come prepared and they do what's asked. I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest one when I have conversations. It's like, how come you're not doing what's being asked? And I think a lot of that has to do with identity of feeling like I need to be seen. And I think a lot of that stems from when they're much younger, when they feel like they are biologically disadvantaged from females. And I think that kind of like, I'm better than you, I'm gonna be like a rebel here, comes from that. And this is not like any hardcore science. I'm just some loose observations from a stupid person like me. But I do see this as like there are data points that kind of point.
Well, having gone from teaching FP to first year in the past few months, I can tell you it's dramatic.
FP being thesis.
Yeah, sorry. Final project, your last studio before leaving school, your 5th year student. You're adults by that point. And I actually think it's to our credit. Like we see a huge transformation from first year to 5th year. And I think the chemistry and the makeup of those classes is 100% different. So disregard a lot of this, I think, as we go deeper down
Yeah,
the
I mean,
line.
I'm mostly speaking from like the first few
But
years.
for first year, the feeling is very palpable. And actually, I've spent some time talking to people that teach high school. Like I have family friends and other colleagues who teach high school. They echo this a lot. And they know that they have to teach to male students in a different way than female students.
And why do we think that? I mean, because part of from Nihar's conversation, I'm thinking like, and maybe yours too, Waleed, it's like a female student is the expectation's going to come in. She's been trying to do her work, and now the expectation is the guy isn't, or
Well, I think just very basically to my reading and my personal experience is just the maturity level is so radically different.
Well, Christian, I want to hear your perspective on this. So we've talked about a lot from the male's perspective of they feel disadvantaged or whatever it might be, but then there's the other side of it what motivates the female. It's not like the female is just kind of like naturally just better and that's it. It's also their disadvantage in terms of trying to pursue career goals. We know that women are disadvantaged in general. So they always feel, I'm generalizing here, that they have to meet expectations put on them from outside pressure, which forces them to excel, where I feel like there's an opposite force with the males where they're like, well, I wasn't treated right and, fuck this. I'm better than you and I don't even have to prove it.
I don't know. So I don't, I really don't know.
Generalizations here.
Well, I grew up it's my sister and I never had a brother, whatever, but I do have male cousins. And at least in our family dynamic, there's so much, like my female cousins and I will joke about how much pressure is put on us. But then my male cousins, they've been like just praised for the smallest things. Like I don't know, won one race and they're like the best runner in the whole world, and all of the moms and everyone's like, wow, you're wonderful. And meanwhile, it's like the women are doing so much and it's still not enough.
It's a cultural thing, I think, at the
Yeah,
end of the day.
that's why I'm...
But I mean, as us in our roles of instructors, and we're grading students and we're kind of looking how to improve individuals, it's very evident and obvious to me, the differences, again, in the early years. And that's not to say that I think a lot of these male students have fantastic ideas. I just don't think they're disciplined enough. And I think there's a reason for it. I don't know what it is. I'm not kind of a psychologist or whatever here.
Circle back one thing on the
sure.
Harry
Go
Potter.
ahead.
Just because we didn't...
Yeah, we did I
we
did
went
such
on
a bad
whole...
Yeah, real hatchet job on that one. Well, I'm just
But
kidding.
I do agree. I think especially when I teach first year fall and the students come in and Anthony, our coordinator of first year, is like, you're in this studio, you're in that. I think
exactly.
it feels like the sorting hat.
Oh, yeah.
And they are like, arguably they are sorted into different kind of personalities, characters of architecture, and then you kind of learn that you apprentice.
And we're all so different. I actually really like that because we all kind of teach magic in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, oh, I wish I was in this group.
Yeah.
Right.
And so like,
Thank you. That's what I was
and
trying
then
to get to.
eventually you get to, and I think this is consistent through most architecture schools, you get to a point a certain year where you select your professors, right? And so then you're putting your top
You're
three.
moving houses.
Yeah, and so you're moving houses and you're trying to kind of select what fits your style or whatever that might be.
It's your little ingredients over time.
Here, I'm going to say I do judge people off of that because, I expect you to be exposed to certain things. Like, I expect you to know how to model a certain way.
You told me one time that an unnamed student said that they had me in first year and that I didn't teach them any Rhino. And I was like, every class I do is just like, here's how to do
people
some
said that
stuff in
about me
Rhino.
too. They're like, oh, he didn't teach me that. And it's like, okay.
I think that's wrong.
I literally have videos on this stuff. Get out of here. I got receipts. Get the fuck out of my face.
Can we talk about the best student now?
Yeah, the best student in the world.
That became
supposedly
the first African American president that then built this, or is building this really cool presidential center. Obviously, it's a controversial topic. I really wanted to talk about this building because it has been getting a lot of conversation on everywhere these days.
Because Trump hates it.
It's just because it finally is also kind of getting finished. Yeah, and you're right. Politically, there's a lot of conversation around Obama and the friction between the new administration. But let's just talk about the architecture just for a minute. I wanted to highlight the building because I really think this is actually a brilliant piece of architecture. It's a Todd Williams, Billy Tien project. They always have done kind of amazing work. I like this building because it's a little bit hard to classify. It looks like I think this is why people are upset about it, actually, because it looks kind of like a tower, but the proportions of it don't behave like an office tower. But it's also kind of nestled into a landscape. It doesn't sit neatly within a typology, and the language of the architecture is not exactly the easiest to read. But that's exactly why I find it to be really compelling.
I mean, it also presents itself as a monument in the field, which is like an obelisk, which you might see in memorial parks like in Washington, D.C. I mean, there's probably reasons to why it is what it is. I think I read somewhere that's supposed to like represent hands coming together. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Dumb.
What?
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. That's like, that's not what it is.
That's post-rationalization.
Cristiano, what's your thoughts on the political side of it or the design side of it?
Oh, well, I like the obelisk read. I think, at least in the renderings, the way the materiality shows up, it kind of looks like it's the remnants from a quarry. Like it's kind of this chunk that was carved and left out, which is pretty neat.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's how it looks like in real life because of the panelization.
It's
Yeah,
suffering
yeah.
a little bit from the same thing that the Rex Perlman Center that we talked about suffers from, which is it's stone. And it's like a really beautiful texture, but there's something that happens at a scale with stone where all of a sudden it starts to look like a JPEG texture mapping problem.
Yeah, but in the Rex project, I think they do a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
But it's more or less the details how it comes out. But
I don't mind that tiling in real life. Like I think the experience is nice.
I don't think it feels carved. Is what I'm saying. Like if it was concrete, it'd feel more carved.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think they're really clever though. This office about Todd and Billy about playing with form in a way that's not a trope, the way that many formalists do. I just really enjoy it. Like it always seems to be somewhat tied to materiality. It also hints at there's like little notes of collage in here which I really enjoy, like the text and the difference of how you deal with fenestration. Like at the top, it's all about these kind of weird textures made from the text itself that you can't really read unless you get really close. And then down below, there's these beautiful kind of punched windows that move in different directions. And I'm saying all this, and everyone's just be like, yeah, but I hate it. It looks like a trash can.
So
I'm
let's
like,
talk about it.
I don't really understand why people think it looks like a trash can. Is it because it's a box?
So one thing to know is there's two kind of conflicting issues here. One is it's being built on a park, right, in Chicago, in the south side of Chicago, by I think the Museum of Technology around that area. And you're not supposed to be building private buildings in public land is one of the issues. The other critique is just the way it looks. It's like, oh, this doesn't look like it fits here. Or this doesn't look like, or this looks very ugly. And, you know, like those conversations, like, who the fuck are you exactly? Yeah. Like, did you pay for this? Okay, so shut the fuck up. And secondly, the people living in here, from what I've found, are not complaining about this building. This provides a function. Beyond the aesthetic of it, it does provide a function for the community. And it's not just this tower, there's other buildings.
Yeah, there's a plinth with like all kinds of stuff, a community center, library, all kinds of stuff.
And then they kind of fold the park on top of the roof of one of the buildings. So people are like, saying, oh, we're losing trees, we're losing park space, which you are, but you're also activating it because, I mean, there's kind of like the landscape conversation of, okay, you're killing nature, and I get that until I understand it, but every building is doing that. Whether you build it on a park or not, that's what buildings are. They're violent to Earth. Okay, that's just what it is. So it's actually hot take. People that take the position of architecture like, oh, sustainability matters, and it's like, really, sustainability? Stop building buildings. Okay, don't make a tower. Like, who's making a net zero fucking tower and saying, I care about the environment? No, you don't. You don't give a shit.
I think part of the clever strategy here actually is the tower, because you're making an object in the field. You're giving more green space away. There's a plinth that engages with the landscape. I think they actually have been very sensitive argument, to the park context.
I guess the counter to the sustainability thing that I just said is, okay, you know buildings are going to be made, so let's make them as sensitive as possible to the fact that they are violent, right? And so one can make the argument, but people that are like, oh, this is like taking away land. Every architecture building is a violent act. So it's just like, okay, at a certain point, you're just being political here.
We should also say that you grew up in the Chicagoland area, so you have a little bit of context of what the conversation might be.
I mean, I think arguably too, in terms of that environmental conversation, what was happening there before? I'm sure it wasn't being taken care of,
exactly.
you know. And if it's urban land, there's not going to be a whole bunch of like wildlife in there. We know that even trails, like 10 miles out from a trail, animals don't go. So it's not like this is restoring
This is very different than the conversation we just had about 1011 here locally.
Right. And so there are, this land also, I don't know if this is exactly the part of the land. I know Lakeshore Drive is part of this. It's just like it's fake land. It was kind of added to the shore. And so it's not actually, it was never real. Just like Lower Manhattan from Pearl Street on was kind of false land. But Chicago has this reputation. There's a bunch of old guard that want to preserve the notion of classical architecture in Chicago, or like high Chicago architecture in terms of like the early 20th century.
The white city.
Modernism, the white city. Yeah. And there's a very combative board of residents that want to kill every contemporary project. And sometimes...
NIMBYs is what they call them.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes it is about the parks. I mean, the George Lucas Museum, designed by MAD, that was a park issue.
Did that get completely scratched?
No, it's built in LA. It's just,
but I mean, they pushed it out.
Oh, yeah. Right. Basically, they were under litigation for years, and George Lucas and his wife were just like, we're not dealing with this. We're moving out of here. Just because of the whole park thing. Similar to this, in terms of the Obama Museum, the organization that was trying to litigate failed. I think they kind of didn't succeed in trying to stop it. But in George Lucas's case, they stalled him enough that he's like, I'm sick and tired of this. It's not worth my time.
Which sucks because they robbed Chicago of like a really cool
right. I mean, thing. I think these people are really interested in preserving parks, so that's their mission. Good for them. But outside of that, there are people that are against the architecture itself. In IIT, Illinois Institute of Technology, this is kind of a Misesian campus. Mies van der Rohe kind of designed the whole thing, and then OMA under Rem Koolhaas wanted to design a student center, and also that is very contested in terms of the politics of why would you build this here? That Chicago shouldn't accept anything like this. It's just traditionally, from my perspective, there's a lot of old heads that want to just see Chicago as it was 100 years ago or like 80 years ago.
That's interesting because that is a slightly unique culture to Chicago compared to New York City. Like,
right.
There's tons of NIMBYs in New York City, absolutely. But I think the attitude is often a little bit more, everything is somewhat acceptable here if you have enough money.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of NIMBYism. It's just in Chicago, there's a different, slightly more conservative culture around what gets built, I guess.
There's just a group of people with influence in Chicago that go to these boards, go to these meetings, and just try to shut things down because there's a very strong architectural foundation presence in Chicago, and they love to show tours, and there's like the architectural
I love the boat tour.
And there's definitely a culture of here's architecture, but it's a antiquated architecture, it's a historical architecture that they try to preserve. They're not actually interested in contemporary architecture, evolving architecture in the city. Maybe like in New York City, there's a lot of contemporary architecture, I would say. Same with LA.
Strange because also it's the home of the Pritzkers. Like it kind of represents or is iconic of avant-garde architecture.
Look, there are some good projects. Like you have the Frank Gehry Music Outdoor Amphitheater. That's actually fantastic with the bridge that goes over one of the roads. You have Renzo Piano. You have Millennial Park with the Cloud Gate, which is Sabine by Anish Kapoor. There's a lot of cool projects there. And I would say that Todd and Billy are producing a really cool project. I mean, like you said, they're really about materiality, and their folk art museum in New York City that was adjacent to MoMA, which closed down, unfortunately, years ago. That was an amazing project, and it was like a facade project. And it's very similar. I think there's a lot of hate, and I think we have kind of an image of that folk art museum. But that got a lot of hate, but also people wanted to preserve it as like an artifact.
Yeah, I was going to say the biggest uproar, that was right about the time I moved to New York City. When I moved to New York City, this building was just about to be torn down. And I remember there was like, people were so upset about it because it was a huge piece of architectural heritage in the city. And so that is tragic.
A inhabitable piece of art. It's super cool.
Yeah, it's like an artifact. Like you said, it's art in a way.
Like the whole building is like, But to your point, Waleed, I mean, I don't know that much about Chicago, but I do have this imagination that the identity is like really high design culture, but kind of what you're saying is like within very firm limits. It's like we will go up to, Anish Kapoor modernism, and like that's as far as our capacity allows. We're not going to go, crazy beyond that or allow new imagination.
Well, it's also, so in the architectural foundations in the building, they have a huge model of Chicago. And I know they moved, it used to be in a different building, and I haven't seen the new one, but this is years ago, by the way. But there's a model of all the buildings of downtown Chicago. When you go up to the SOM office, which was in the same building as the Chicago Architectural Foundation, they also have another model, very similar, but not as big, and it color codes every building that was designed by SOM, and it's a lot of them.
Yeah, well, I was about to pick on Chicago slightly because, look, the boat tour is awesome, and like going through Chicago, you see a lot of amazing architecture from different periods, but you do get this very strong sense that it's a corporate office park sponsored by SOM to some extent.
Well, beyond the SOM dominating, there's also all of Mies's work and his students' work, because there's a lot of like fake-looking Mies van der Rohe buildings, because, again, going back to IIT, He used to be the director of the school, and a lot of his students end up becoming architects, and they built work like him, obviously. And so Chicago looks like just this Mies thing, and SOM kind of evolved from the Mies language anyway, or not. It didn't like evolve from it, but they were working at the same time, and so there's a lot of similarities in kind of the culture at that time. So it's heavily dominated by that language as contemporary, and so you don't get like these gems like Todd and Billy's work happening often.
What is Jeannie Gang's relationship with
It's
Mies?
weird.
And because then her like wave tower thing seems like
it's antithetical, right?
Well,
although it's got that like modern blob that's acceptable.
I don't think Jeannie Gang's work is seen as Chicago, to be honest. I know she's there, like that's where the headquarters of her practice is, but it doesn't really. From when I was there, it never seemed like Studio Gang was a very Chicago oriented.
Like her voice isn't really present in the identity of the city.
She's more Harvard than she is Chicago. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I think her lineage and genealogy comes more from her GSD sort of.
Yeah, I think the conversations around her lends her to be a much more international oriented. Even though you can make the argument that all these big offices are also international, of course. I mean, they're very influential across the world and the country. But I think like And not to say she's not important. She definitely is important.
But it's maybe
just,
not in the Chicago school of thought.
right.
Or
I think,
what I wonder,
yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of the, what is it, Aqua Tower is the one you're referring to. Yeah, I think there is probably a very interesting argument that you can make that is in response to critique to the Mies Towers, for sure. It's also the other tower, what is it called? The one that has a bunch of octagons. I think it starts with a W.
Which
I want to say like the Windy Towers or something. This starts defaulting into corporate architecture pretty quick.
Totally. Yeah.
And, you know, like whatever. I mean,
Well,
it's not that
let's
bad.
let's
but-
put a pin in this slightly because I like this conversation, but I wanted to just bring up, we kind of talked about this old guard that's protecting maybe the lineage or the history of Chicago's architecture, and it's a little bit set into the past, maybe the heyday of S1, whatever you want to, however you want to characterize that. But then there's a young cohort or a young group of kind of exciting people at Chicago schools doing just interesting, very different work. So it's the kind of the tragedy of the American experience that we live in now, which is like those people don't get their chance to put their fingerprint on Chicago in the way that maybe it used to be, right? So they have to do this smaller, more strategic. I mean, that's what we talked about, the Chicago Biennial. And that's maybe a kind of a little bit of a response to that, or creating a platform.
I mean, that's a good point where I might be misspeaking here, but I remember Paul Preisner, who teaches at UIC in Chicago, one of these like very good schools that are pushing contemporary design, saying that sometimes the city opens up competitions. He was specifically, I remember, if I can, might be mistaken here, talking about the Chinatown Museum or Chinatown Library, public library in Chicago, where they didn't open it up to the public as much as they could have to allow practices like his to even compete in it.
Yeah.
Where it was I think it was closed invitation, and so like SOM ended up winning
Of
it.
course.
And so there was kind of this conversation of, you know, the disappointment with the city trying to even get contemporary designers involved in
Right.
public projects, which traditionally, you know, like in Europe, if you have a competition, it's open to everybody, and then that allows young designers to
Right.
actually feed into the pool of people that are considered. And so there is a critique in Chicago because it is such an architectural city, but it's dominated by an institutional perspective of who's acceptable to participate in the city and who's
I mean, not to like make it all about us, but that's what I think we're trying to do here is in a way, like we just have to be louder as young, vital discipline. We need to be louder and more present. If I don't think we even get to enter these conversations, and part of it has to do with, I don't know, cultural relevancy, exposure, all these things. I mean, it's also like the safe bet of going with a corporate architecture firm that you know can deliver. Whatever. There's many issues there, but I do think there's a cultural battle to be fought, and you know, whatever. We're trying to fight that battle. So
Yeah.
One other maybe reflection on the Obama Library and why it's looking, or the comment is like a trash can or whatever. Looking at the images of it, I wonder how much it's like lack of skyline context and kind of the scale, especially that the renders show it. Like, I can understand why non-designers are looking at it in this particular way. There's no other kind of referential point, and in a lot of the images it's like the trees are, and it's totally out of scale.
that's a good
But
point.
look at the buildings behind it. They look ugly as shit too. I mean, the thing is, you
But
think
see, that's not often shown.
Yeah,
you know,
I-
it's usually the singular
Your point makes a lot of
structure.
sense, though, to me. If this was an infill project, no one would say anything. Meaning, if this was sandwiched between two other buildings
New
in a
York project
downtown,
they did.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
at least the conversation would be different.
It would be a
like
different conversation.
proportionally, it's weird,
I think
and that's
you're right.
kind of cool.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think also this is very related to your take on brutalism. Like, I think it's the same kind of conversation. They're looking at a monolithic form that is hard for them to understand. We think it's interesting to look at the stone patterning, and they don't read it like that. They
Well,
see it as
and
a
I
big
think-
blank surface.
I think it's exciting for us too, because it's like not constrained to that like tower lot size. You can do other volumetric moves. So as
But
architects, I think
there's
it's,
two things that bother me. The first, I'm probably going to forget the second point. The first is the fact that they compare this to, well, I'll say the second point first. First, it's like not human enough for them. It's not like, it's not a building that they're used to, and so it's inappropriate, right? Okay, that's fine. I mean, I guess you can, culturally, some people are going to be more comfortable than others. We talked about in brutalism, like why people would feel brutalist or modernist architecture is not appropriate because it replaces their historical identity that was destroyed in the war. But the other issue that I'm kind of confused about is why they keep comparing it to Star Wars and saying this is a problem. That is amazing.
Yeah.
To me, my whole
I would
theory
like
is
if it lived up more to Star
yeah,
Wars.
and my
Please.
thought is why is it that people dislike? Because I try to push Star Wars aesthetic a lot in my studios because I think that like relates to pop culture and what people like. I mean, not for every building in the world, but for certain projects. I don't know how people think. I'm not gonna say like, oh, you just don't know good design, because I don't know good design if everyone hates it. I have my biased opinions because I was taught by biased institutions. at the end of the day, it's just a weird thing because people like Star Wars. Why wouldn't you like this building that looks like it's in Star Wars? It's
I
like
don't
a
even
weird
know that
dunk.
everyone's saying like, that's a negative association. I think people are looking for clicks. I think it's a fun thing to talk about. They're
True.
like, hey, it looks like this thing.
I feel like this is a great transition to the Arc de Trump
Oh yeah, we should talk
and
about
that's reception because it's
You don't like the Arc de Trump? Come on, it's amazing. It's
but
very French.
in this conversation about like
It's
what
too French.
what appeals to people and what doesn't, right?
Well,
It's
if
like,
they'd put a freaking Star Wars character on top, I'd like it more.
Wait, what are the 3 scales we're seeing here by Trump?
Apparently, there's 3 different possible sizes, and if you look at the
I want
diagram,
mega, please.
So look,
Can we get
look,
MAGA
do
size?
You know why option 1 exists? Just to be bigger than the Arc de Triomphe, right? Option 2 is like that's what we can afford. Option 3 is like that's the budget version.
I mean, budget version still seems huge.
it is.
Dude, MAGA size is crazy. I want MAGA.
I'm curious what's triumphal. Like, what did we triumph over to build a triumphal
Dude,
arch?
he stopped all the wars. Don't you know?
He stopped
mean-
7 wars, guys.
He prevented
He's starting war,
China.
though. I mean,
he prevented China from taking advantage of us and Japan. Now we're getting money.
I actually would kind of love is if this was the Arc de Trump triumphal arch brought to you by tariffs that are paid for by like I want a huge plaque on it that is all the things that he thinks like all the wins.
Well, I think some of the supporters of the arch are saying America's reached this pinnacle of our existence and we need to kind of memorialize. Like they're seeing this as like the great,
Right.
make America great again. This is the great time of America, so we need something to represent
It's funny because
that.
that's the architecture they want to use to represent America. It's like
Right.
that's like the colonial powers that
Yeah.
you resisted against his language.
I didn't know it without reading, but what's depicted is a gold-winged angel and 2 white eagles.
Nice.
I mean, guys, like we just posted the short about MAGA aesthetic right to our socials, so please go check it out if you haven't seen it. I think this is a really interesting data point in that, right? It's about the spectacle. It's an object in a field. He's very much trying to make a token on the landscape to be viewed. Part of me, like, it's easy to make fun of this. It's easy to just say this is stupid. It's a waste of money. And conceptually, why are we doing this? I do just think, though, I wish that they would take on the aesthetic project a little bit more seriously. Like, I wish somebody in the administration was actually thinking, like, what would a real triumphal arch
Wait,
for
hold
our
on.
time
Can I
look
counter
like?
this? I actually kind of like it.
Why?
Yeah, okay, when you go to Washington Square Park in New York City, there's a little arch you walk under. It's actually amazing.
It's nice. Yeah.
I like this stuff. I'm not against it. And like when I see all the churches out here in Troy and a lot of them are abandoned, I'm like, these are beautiful buildings.
Yeah.
There's something to say. I like all architecture. I mean, there's some really ugly ones out there, but I tend to think that within all styles, there's some really good examples of each style.
Sure.
And so if that's what they want to go with, fine. If I'm going to counter it, I sound like them. I sound like I hate everything that's not what I'm into.
No, you're not hearing me. I'm saying take it more seriously then. Like, what is that symbol? Like, what's the symbolism of the winged creature on top? Like, I just want them to actually take it seriously. Take it like Napoleon did when he put up the Triumphal Arch. Build a narrative into it.
Don't
then.
influence them to be like Napoleon.
Hire
please.
Mark Foster Gage to kit bash something onto
Yeah,
the
but
facade.
now you're pushing your contemporary aesthetic on.
No, I'm pushing aesthetics. That's the point. That's what we do.
But this is aesthetics.
No,
Like you
no,
don't always
it's
have
lazy.
to.
It's-
See, I disagree with you. I don't think it's lazy. I think it's just certain people. I mean, this is how we have people dislike what we do.
I would agree with you if you could tell me what that means. What does it mean?
Why does
tell
it
me
mean
what
to
it
mean
means.
anything? It's just
big.
beautiful.
That's what it means.
Nihar, I want to get your perspective. What's your thoughts?
It does look cool, and arches are cool, but like if I'm like looking to render stuff in a model, I'll just type in like cool desk model download and then pull that out and be like, oh, this is pretty cool. Let me use this in a render. It looks like that. Like I've talked to people in studios where they're like, oh, my building looks boring. I'm going to add some curves. And I'm like, well, I think like that's great and all, but if you don't have a rhyme and reason behind it, if you can't justify it, if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, then for me, that just doesn't mean anything. And for me, like this is one of those things where I'm like, it looks cool, but like if it just doesn't feel like there's a rhyme and reason for it.
I mean, the counter would be it looks like everything else on the lawn, right? It kind of fits the aesthetic. Like to do anything against that aesthetic would be like doing something you need to justify. Now, I don't want that to be the arch that they designed because the political meaning behind it, like it's trying to say this is the acceptable architecture and everything else is bad. There are political reasons against it. Like if someone wanted to build an arch, I don't have a problem with it.
I don't even agree with your reading of Washington, D.C.
Really?
Those are not all from the same era. Every single piece of architecture on the mall tells a different story. It's from a different era. They're referencing different things.
Yeah,
Look
but
at the
they're-
obelisk.
But
They're all mean
they're
different things.
Relatively.
This
like,
is a golden angel. I don't know what that means. Is that our most culturally representative icon that you want to
so
put
you're
on top of
attacking
this thing?
specifically the angel or like the ornaments.
I'm just saying I actually am not even against it. Just I want more thought into what it is. Like, let's make a competition to make the best arch for this moment. Then okay, fine. But to just hand it out and say like, look at this cool giant thing that I'm making, I don't know. I think it's not. I think it's lazy.
I mean, I'm interested who designed it or like where this all came from.
I actually just tried looking it up. I actually can't even find anything about it.
I really wish that they just kind of like scanned. Like, what if they scanned a bunch of things, they threw in some AI?
I love that.
Yeah, but what if you didn't know that and that's what they did?
If they did that, that's interesting though. Talk to me about it. I want to hear about it.
That's how we think. We like the process.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is it can look like whatever. As long as this kind of looks cool, I'm okay with it. And then if there's like an intellectual idea behind it, I'm definitely for it. As long as it's not like, this fascist building that's trying to suppress people, maybe I wouldn't be for it. Now, there was a note on the image board here where it says that the MAGA size was there because it needs to be bigger than
the Lincoln
Memorial because he's the best president since Lincoln. Why didn't you just say he's the best president ever? Like, why would you stop there? Why'd you stop at Lincoln? Just keep going full
It's kind of a
pace
good
ahead.
point.
Well, and something interesting from my reading on it too is this arch is not necessarily his idea. This had been in the plans for the
years.
Yeah, from the 1901.
But that's what
plan.
he says. That's what he says. The ballroom is also a plan they've been trying to do for like 150 years, which might be the case. I don't know. I mean, look, Caleb, I understand what you're saying, but I think there's also a lot of counter classical architecture sentiment in contemporary schools of design.
Yeah.
Which is like, I'm teaching academia and we're exploring stuff, but doesn't mean the private sector can't do what they want.
I'm with you. I'm not saying let's be counter classical. I'm saying I wish there was more thought put into this because I actually think that everything on that mall has a lot of thought put into it, and there's a lot of interesting stories behind each one of those pieces.
I also think if he wants to do like the most adorned arch, this is pretty like ho-hum. Like there are 3 figures.
Yeah.
He could have put like 100 figures. It could have been very like articulated and ornamented, and it's actually kind of quiet.
That's a good point.
I mean, size is loud,
yeah.
but like the design is really
That's kind
boring.
of how it felt about when we talked about the ballroom too. Is like if you're gonna do this, like take it a little bit more seriously. Like we talked about the MAGA aesthetic as a branding mechanism. Brand in this, like go deeper with this.
Totally.
Can I just add that, at least to me, the conversation about the scale of the Lincoln Memorial in relation to this arch is really interesting, especially with the installation of this relatively new ADA ramp. There are not photos of this online.
I didn't know about this.
This is a very recent development.
That is awesome.
That they put a absolutely massive ADA ramp in the center of the approach
That's
to the
crazy.
Lincoln
So
Memorial. Not the
ugly.
exact center.
Are we sure this is
but
real? Is that
yes,
not AI?
I was there.
Oh my
and
God.
it was under construction when I was there.
That's so ugly.
And it actively blocks the view of the Lincoln Memorial. And so to me, when we're talking about like the scale and the propriety of the mall area, I don't know, there's ways that it could have been done better.
Absolutely.
And with more consideration to the scale of people. Because when you stand next to it, I mean, seriously, like it's kind of tragic in a way, It could have been done with a lot more
Did
integrity.
they consult anyone about how to do this in a better way? Did they hire a single architect?
Too, you could have wrapped around the sides rather than
Yeah.
come out.
Yes.
Or tunnel like do what the Philadelphia Art Museum just did. You tunnel under it, you go up.
Well,
Yeah.
and arguably too, from maybe the one time the cool thing is being on the stairs and like the massiveness of that plinth stair thing, and now that's just totally ruined. Half of it's decimated by a ramp.
Let's talk about the trucks. Let's talk about the
kinda
trucks.
like it.
I found this really cool photo series from Robert Benson documenting what's called Decotora, which is these really, we'll definitely share this on our socials. Take a look. It's just these kind of amazingly ornamented, highly modded, highly customized trucks, and these truck drivers and kind of working class people that use trucks in Japan, they mod their trucks and they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and years and like decades of their life building these things. And I just think they're like really beautiful, expressive objects that move on wheels.
Kind of looks like Transformers in
Yeah,
a weird
I was
way.
getting Transformer vibes for sure.
It's a lot of collage, a lot of kind of,
Look at the chrome.
it's a lot of like junk in a weird way, like low kind of commercial objects added to the car.
Yeah.
I love the chandeliers.
I
on
know,
the interior.
inside they have
I mean, and the
beautiful-
interior is really trying to be like an architectural interior inside
Right.
of the truck. It's pretty cool.
And then the even the way they've upholstered with all these crazy patterns.
I love it.
It's
yeah,
very
it's
cool.
beautiful.
It's very much about the subculture, sort of, the Japanese way of looking at subcultures. And I think, Waleed, you talk all the time about the idea of modding or the idea of personalizing or the idea of taking something which is maybe a universal industrial product and then through modification making it your own.
Yeah, going from vanilla to mods.
Totally.
That was, the
It
way.
actually reminds me a lot of like the work that I'm trying to do with my students in studio too, of just like this excessive geometry in a way where you're using a typical element or a typical part, but the way that you're using it is almost overloading it so that you don't read the part. Anyway, I just think it's super
and why
cool.
do we do that?
There's a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is that I feel like it's somewhat of a foolproof methodology. Like you almost can't do it wrong in a way.
Look, I appreciate it, and I think in real life, because it's like chromy and like metallic, kind of looks like gemstones. Like I'm sure it feels really cool and like the reflective light, but like it really still looks pretty janky and ugly. Like there's an ugliness to it, but I think ugly is cool.
It's difficult. It's grotesque in some
Yeah,
ways.
I mean, there's different modes of ugly. I think there's the kind of like grandpa sneaker ugly, which like Balenciaga and Vitamins kind of really push forward with Demna's creative lead. And then there's like this, which is which is probably something that these luxury high designers are looking into when they're thinking about high design. It's like they look at kind of cultures that really obsess over something that's seen as low art or low culture, and they try to make it high art. So in terms of car modding, especially in Japan, there's obviously the sports car like Civics, other things that people mod. There are these trucks. There's the scooters I was showing you, like the Vespas that people mod. There's kind of different scales, and I always wonder, like in terms of architecture, how come architecture never gets modded? I mean, obviously it's very difficult. Like, how would you do it? There's a reason why people really like cars and people obsess over cars way more than they care about buildings, because they make it their own. They put their identity into it, and there's a culture around it. Like there's all these like car clubs or conventions or meetups that people participate in. No one's doing that with buildings because, again, most people can't even afford rent, let alone buying a building, let alone customizing it, blah, blah, blah. I get that. But maybe there's ways of countering that. But you should consider the fact that people like to inject their identity in something, and they like to change the default mode.
Cars and trucks, pick any product that you want to talk about in this way, is an ultimate like neoliberal landscape for you to express yourself, right? Like in a way, it's like a product or something you can consume that is outside of maybe the necessary bounds of what you need in a way. So like you're not modding your house because you need to live in your house. You can't like shut down your house.
But these guys are truck drivers, are in it all day,
True.
That's probably why they're customizing it.
Yeah, true. But I also mean that they have a home they live in, right? So they can work on
You
this
don't
thing.
know that.
I mean, you're right. Maybe they are living in these trucks some of the time. I'm just trying to point out that like I think it's easier for you to imprint yourself on your products or what you can buy and modify than it is maybe in your home, which is seen more as like an investment and maybe much more like crucial to maintain as an investment. You can't mod out your house and then not be able to sell it, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, I wondered about that too, with like vehicles being depreciated. Or, I mean, I think even the vehicle culture in the States versus, like, I could never see this. Well, there are cultures.
Not to this degree.
But yeah, like there are cultures though. Like when I was in LA, people were doing cool modding. There is somewhat of, and my dad's super obsessed with like resto modding old like junk cars and bringing them back to life.
I think it's a different aesthetic in this country, which like it's not acceptable to kind of be super janky. I mean, you could put you could put bumper stickers and things like that.
Well, it's rehashing the classical. Like they'll do like flame and stuff like that in some subcultures, but it's a lot of like remaking the classical.
Right. That's an obsession in America, apparently. We've talked about this with so many. We talked about Trump. We talked about the Chicago architecture. We're talking about here. There's just an obsession of going back to nostalgia and perceiving the past as better than today, which, okay, fine, there's great qualities. But I also think of like India when I saw those trucks, because a lot of times there's a lot of makeshifts that you kind of have to make things work, because, what if you need like more people on the back of your truck or more cargo? Like you have to customize it. I think also there's a lot of regulations in America that doesn't allow us to do these things because safety and all that stuff. Not to say they don't have regulations in other countries, but it seems like those things would get flagged immediately.
Well, and I think, the preciousness of the cars, like going to Europe or whatever, it's like they're dinged and it's not as seen as much of a pressure. It's like it gets me from A to B. If I can have some fun with it, why not?
Totally.
Whereas in the States, it's such a status symbol.
I mean, I guess even with me, like I wouldn't put stickers on my laptop. Like I feel uncomfortable, even though I wish I had another laptop I could do that with. I want to keep my thing very pristine. Yeah, Nir, I know you have a sticker of some person's face on there. That's cool. But it doesn't mean I'm going to do it, man.
Don't worry, you'll be next on that.
And I definitely wouldn't do it to my car.
When I was doing my research trip in Japan, I was talking to somebody about just in general, not even about my research, but just in broad strokes about how Japanese culture varies from American culture. And this was a person that had spent a lot of time in America and kind of moved back to Japan. He was just explaining to me that like it's really hard to put your finger on it, but there is a real core difference between how Japanese people think about their environment and how we think about our environment. We tend to look for a reference that backs up narrative and story, things that connect dots to a larger narrative. And he was kind of trying to help me understand that Japanese culture is a very aesthetic culture. Like thinking outside of just those proxies for narrative, they're very interested in looking at something and reading it aesthetically, and it's just kind of built into their personality in a way. This is why when you go into a grocery store and they've wrapped every orange in a beautiful piece of plastic and it's stacked beautifully, and then the color of the thing that's behind it is coordinated with even the grocery manager thinks on an aesthetic level. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like it's so deep in the culture that it's inseparable from their modern and contemporary lifestyle.
There's like a scale to this aesthetic too, because, you know, from the images from your research, Caleb, and then looking at these cars, it's like this scale and repetition. It's like an urban scale mapped onto the cars that's similar to like the streetscape too. It's like some kind of excess, which I think it's fascinating. It's like a whole little universe that you're looking into. And I would say, you know, we were talking about these being grotesque. I think they're blinged out. I think they're cool.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
I mean,
Doesn't remind me a little.
But they are like visually taxing. Like there's so much there.
I like that. Like the photographs look like paintings of like.
The photographer is also amazing. We mentioned his name before, Robert Benson, I believe, Canadian photographer.
But it does remind me a little Mad Maxy.
Yeah,
too.
it does.
Mad
Max,
Max,
have a little bit post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Which is also about modification.
About modding. Yeah, totally.
I think of generally the culture of modding and like countering the vanilla. Like we do it everywhere, especially in the digital era. Like if you're on Instagram, you're going to put a filter, right? You're going to put a filter that maybe changes the color. You're going to put a filter to give you like devil horns or weird eyes or whatever. In video games, like people mod, like Minecraft is one of the most successful games ever. Mostly, I think, due to the fact that you can customize it so much, and there's a term of like vanilla Minecraft versus modded Minecraft. Same thing with like web programming. There's like vanilla JavaScript versus all the other libraries you can attach to it. So there's just this culture of you have a general platform and you can build on top of it to customize it to make it do maybe what you like or look like however you want it. I think when it comes to design culture and academia, we never talk about that. I think because we're trying to get you to we're trying to design the product that then can get modded, let's say. Like that's not the way we look at it, but like someone designed the game, Minecraft, someone designed a car, and then the people come in and they make the mods. Because usually you need like an open source framework for you to allow to modify the thing that exists.
Actually, something else comes to mind too with this modding. I feel like there are maybe two bifurcations, right? Modding culture out of necessity, out of like it's not working, you need to add extra parts. And then I look at this Japanese truck culture, and it's like it's like modding just because I can, almost like a flex. But you know what I mean? It's like some are modding out of necessity, like I need to fix and add this part, and then others are like I'm modding just because I can do it.
Yeah.
I think we're running low on time. Should we talk about the heist?
Yeah, we're playing this video about the Louvre heist.
They did like full on like diagrams and everything.
So this is an analysis of showing like the times and the locations of where people broke in on the Louvre.
I love that it's like a little repair truck.
Wow.
Yeah. They broke the window, which wasn't thick enough, apparently. The glass should have been much thicker. And they had like 7 minutes to do this, I believe.
Yeah.
I think I heard someone saying that within 7 minutes, essentially cops will show up on the scene. So, and also they didn't steal the most expensive things, apparently. So, you know, and then they dropped the crown jewel or something like that. This is Napoleon's jewelry, or like him and his wife's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the most crazy part. They did it in broad daylight, like while
That
everyone
makes
was
sense. Like to do it at night would be much harder.
There
right?
were visitors. I think it was 30 minutes after the museum opened. They were in.
Wow.
So that's the crown jewel that they dropped. My God. I heard someone saying that, why do people actually show the real stuff? How come they just don't have replicas? Like, who's going to know the difference? Like, why even do this? Like, this is the crown jewel of this country. Like, why the hell would you put this in display? Just hide it in a vault.
Yeah. I don't
No one's
know.
going to know. Who cares?
It's nice that you can see it, though.
Even if you
Those
told
of
people
us
it's a replica.
history nerds
Even
would
if,
know.
look, but if it's a replica, who cares? You know, like, it looks the same. Look, you would still go if it was a replica. Guaranteed.
I wouldn't be as keen to go.
You got to stick up your asses.
I mean, if you
Okay.
went to the Louvre and all the artwork was replica, too, wouldn't you be like,
No, actually, I would be happy.
Really?
What difference does it make for me? How do I know if
Then
it's
why
fake
don't I
or
just
not?
look at them online? Why do I care?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I think it's really cool to look at an object and be like, wow, this is 1,000 years old.
Napoleon
like,
probably held this.
or I like the really old, like, I don't know, tools.
Sure.
And I think about like, wow, what was it like to be a human then when they were making this?
Okay, so here's a diagram that kind of breaks everything down. So this diagram explains that the thieves used a machine ladder to reach the first floor balcony. Okay, and then they cut through the window panes and to enter the gallery itself, and obviously they just broke the glass. 3 angle grinders were used to break the 2 display cases. Okay, they could have just taken a hammer, but good for them. And then the 4th thing, the alarms rang out. The thieves fled on scooters, and the priceless haul, but they dropped the crown of Empress
Dude,
Eugene.
they're sitting there cutting the displays with an angle grinder, and no one's like, "Hey, excuse me."
Well, what are you
No,
gonna do?
they apparently had, they set alarms off and were like clearing
Oh,
everyone
got
out
it,
because they
got
didn't
it.
know the full
Got it.
extent
Right,
of.
and these are professionals, man. Like these people obviously know what they're doing, and it's just crazy that this culture even exists. I mean, you see it in the movies, but the fact that people do this, and it happens all the time. Apparently, it's like, who the fuck wakes up and like, I'm going to steal from the Louvre? Clearly, I would assume that they have a buyer. Like, why would you not? Why would you do this without having a buyer? Like, that's kind of wild.
You just have to have a really wealthy person that wants to hold on to
Well,
it.
the thing is, okay, so there's like this controversy around the fact that these are stolen gems from like Africa and stuff that they use to make these things. And so that led to a different, I was watching a video, I don't know where, and they were mentioning like how China did this whole operation to steal back their artwork. It's not stealing, it's just retrieving the artwork, but they hired this kind of group of people to take back artwork that the West has stolen from China.
Wow.
And they brought it back. It's like, that's amazing.
That's actually
So what if this
awesome.
was an inside job?
You send SEAL Team 6 to go like steal, you know what I mean?
But it's
Yeah.
not stealing; it's just retrieving.
Yeah, you're getting
you know?
back your
like.
property.
Look, I think there's like a statement online that's like the entirety of the British Museum is stolen
Yeah, that's
goods.
no joke.
Like the whole thing is just
Oh, totally.
If you've been to the British Museum, it's just like one thing after another.
the empire.
This doesn't belong to us. Yeah.
Well, and I think the lore of this too, right, is it's so cinematic or,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it follows so many movie plots.
I know. It's just amazing that that's out there. And I was just like in my head trying to imagine, well, who's it, like 3 guys, 4 guys, a girl? Because like in the movies, it's always like
Dude,
a
we
mix
all
of,
know what
mixed
this
bag.
actually is. The Louvre put this on as a publicity stunt because they're not getting as many visitors as they would like. So they just robbed themselves. They'll put the jewels back out there in a few months, guys. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
I don't think their marketing team is that good. But so over 1,500 items were stolen. Wait, this is 1,500 items
this is the
were
British
stolen
Museum. So
from them?
No.
Damn.
Of their 1,500 items on display are stolen from Greek and Roman
Oh, yeah,
sources.
that makes sense.
If you've
100.
been there, and I've been there, it's a
never
great
been.
museum. But you do walk around being like, holy crap! Like if they give all this back, there's nothing here. It's just an empty building.
I think a lot of Egyptian ruins are there
Lots
too.
of mummies. Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Actually, Egypt doesn't own a lot of their stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of it just kind of got stolen. That happens.
The obelisk that's in the park in Central Park, is that a stolen obelisk?
Is it?
Do you know the one behind
know about an obelisk.
the Met? There's the huge Egyptian obelisk. I think that's another one.
I wouldn't be
that's been
shocked if
argued
a lot of
about.
the Met is
Yeah.
stolen
Oh
stuff
yeah,
too.
yeah, sure.
So.
All right, let's just let's switch gears slightly. If you
Mihar
don't,
is shaking right now because he's got to get somewhere.
yeah, he's super amped for his midterm.
Well, actually, could I comment? Could we
Sure.
continue the Egypt conversation
Yeah.
for just a moment? Because, I mean, I think having been there recently, their relationship with like the ancient Egyptian culture, like contemporary, I think it's very strange because, and this was a part of conversation with the group I was there with, it's like their relationship to ancient Egypt is so structured and constricted by like British, I don't know, looking like even the Egypt Museum in Cairo. The attitude is just like, yeah, here's a bunch of stuff from back then. The British told us it was important. We don't really care. It's just this weird kind of tension where it's like our value being seen through the West is for this culture that's died out, that isn't contemporary.
it's not
Egypt.
even they're not even controlling their own narrative.
Well, I
around
mean-
the history.
Right, that's the conversation. Like yeah.
But I was gonna say, I think you're making a claim that they don't feel like the connection to ancient Egypt as much as they're perceived from the West.
Maybe if all their shit hadn't
Well,
been
I think
stolen, they
as-
would.
Right.
Well, I think-
it's control of their own narrative. Like, yeah.
And I think part of it is like the larger kind of Middle Eastern history. Egypt in Cairo specifically has kind of been kind of one of the home bases for the Pan-Arabist movement. So this identity that's anti-colonial, that's like what the Pan-Arabist movement is. It's not like it's there for no reason. I think part of it is after the Ottoman Empire fell, which controlled that entire region, different imperial forces started walking in, like the French and the British, and they're like, oh, that's mine. And these people in these communities are like, no, we need sovereignty as well. And so this identity that rallied all of them together was the Pan-Arabist movement. And so I think them identifying as Arab counters the Egyptian historical presence or identity. And so that's probably why it's there more than anything else, in my opinion.
Well, and this urge to modernize, right? Like, I mean, even learning about the Aswan Dam, which is more like Upper Egypt into the south, there's tons of like Nubian. So Nubian was different than the Egyptian artifacts, and that were totally flooded, like, because, you know, we want to modernize, we want to have the dam and channelize our river in a different way. Yeah, it's just a totally different orientation towards like what is valued in terms of history versus like controlling our own destiny.
That is really interesting. It's something we don't think about a lot, but being able to control your own narrative of your own history in a way.
Well, and one other thing I'll say, being in Cairo, especially parts of like old Cairo, is like remade in the Parisian. Like, it's meant to be like a little Paris, because at the time of Muhammad Ali, that kind of like instituted modern Egypt, he sent his son, and a lot of the elites were sending their kids off to Paris specifically. And so there's like this Parisian influence in Egyptian architecture. But it's all, and again, so they're not drawing sources from ancient Egypt, which others find, like outsiders find interesting about Egypt. They're pulling from French to kind of like modernize. Or
when you say Muhammad Ali, you're talking about like Mehmet Ali, the Ottoman ruler
yeah.
of Cairo. Yeah.
At
first I was like, oh, you're talking about the boxer.
I thought she was talking about the boxer
Not
this
the
entire
boxer.
time.
The Ottoman ruler,
historic
I think,
figure.
which typically is referred to Mehmet Ali, to not get confused with Muhammad Ali, the
Oh,
boxer.
sorry.
No, it's fine. I just want to clarify
Americanizing.
that.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Alexandria, which, you know, that was conquered by Alexander the Great, which is why it's like that. So there's a lot of Greek. There's also like a lot of Greek and Roman connections with Egypt historically too, which is very interesting. So there's that. But because we are short on time, is there anything else you want to speak about this topic, or should we switch topics?
So, I mean, this is something I just thought would be fun to talk about a little bit, something that I've been working on. You'll be hearing more about this in the coming weeks, hopefully, but MXD is looking to launch an architectural competition, and I'm really proud of kind of the idea around this idea that it's a competition like nothing you've ever seen before. It's kind of more like, think of almost like a
Battle Royale.
Yeah. It's like a knockout round. Almost think like World Cup style or March Madness style knockout head-to-head architecture competition. So the idea being that you're getting input from a lot of different institutions. We're hoping to source submissions from students literally anywhere, and the point is for you to be able to kind of share with us your projects, your studio projects. It's not that you're making a new project for this competition, but you're submitting a project. I'm excited that hopefully in a few weeks we can talk about the jury that we're trying to ask to kind of curate the projects. They'll be looking at those submissions, and then they'll almost be drafting them to their team, and then those teams will go into the bracket. And there's some visuals that we'll push out to our social medias that you guys will see eventually. But the point of this is to gamify the experience a little bit more, to have a little bit more engagement from students at all levels, and I think it's really exciting. You guys, I haven't had a chance to talk to you guys about it much, so I'm curious to see what you guys might think that we've been working
I was
on.
gonna say, it looks like the MAG aesthetic meets Tron Legacy.
I was going to ask about that too. It does look a bit rally.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'm a huge Rocket League addict. You guys may not know this about me, but I love playing.
Oh my
God!
God!
I love playing Rocket League, and at one point, I don't know, a few weeks ago, I mean, I had already thought that MXD should get into the idea of doing an architecture competition, but it occurred to me at some point that leaning into that aesthetic, leaning into the head-to-head, the arena aesthetic, actually could be really, really fun. Part of the fun thing here that I haven't fully worked out that I think would be interesting is that when we do have sort of the guest person that's going to chair the jury for the competition, they're going to get a chance to kind of curate the people that are going to pick the project. So there actually will be a little bit of that happening. The jury will also get a chance then to like select projects, so they'll get to kind of also maybe have a hand in how that goes into the bracket, if that makes sense. So that means that not only will they be picking projects, but they'll get to almost curate the images that go into the bracket.
Then more like the public.
Yeah, then the public is doing
voting.
all the voting on the results of the competition.
But if you curated the winning teams, you get kind of thumbs up.
You get to curate the players that go into the field, And
Okay.
so, yeah, if your team wins, that's great. It just means that you picked the right players. So think of it like I'm really
Very
excited about this, guys.
drafty.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that we'll do a big live stream event at some point with the jury. They'll get to pick the projects that go into the bracket, and it'll be a fun
And explain
kind of conversation.
why.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah.
pretty cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
I also wanted to circle back to the Kyle Miller diagram we talked about a few weeks ago. I don't know, like I'm trying to put our money where our mouth is a little bit. I view this as like the opposite of that way of thinking in a way. So it's not just a jury telling everybody what projects are important now. It's a jury saying, hey, I think these are interesting, but let's let the public decide what are the most interesting projects from this batch. I need to say, we're going to feature the work on our socials. We're gonna promote the work as much as we possibly can.
And so, like, if a first-year student destroys a first-year grad student or a second-year grad student at a different institute, at least make them feel good.
That's a really good point. There's a lot of mechanisms behind the scene that we still need to figure out, but I do want to think about that. Like, how do we pair these up for the knockout stage? Also, how much information does the jury have when they select? Do they know what institute they're coming from? All that stuff? No, probably not. But when do we reveal that? And I think that's a really fun dimension to this that I've never seen anything like this before. That's the reason I'm excited by this. I don't think there's any competitions like this out there right now. I think it's completely unique.
We will say that there is prize money.
I was
is
going to
the
say, if
idea.
it's a competition, what are we
There
competing
will be
for?
prize money. There will also be tiered. We don't know how much yet. It really depends on how much involvement we have. We'll work on that. The other half of that is I actually imagine we'll have a series of prizes. So some people will get maybe some MXC merch. Some people will get, again, promoted on the socials. Maybe the winner even comes on the podcast. So there's a lot of elements to it that we can.
We assume money will be involved.
Yes.
And we're not trying to gatekeep this by
Right.
having an entry fee, so it should be free for
Yes.
everybody.
Agreed. Okay. That's exciting. I'm glad you guys are on board.
Nir, how you feeling?
Tired.
Tired?
Hungry. Really hungry, actually.
Really? You want to tell us goodbye?
Goodbye.
That's it?
Oh, shit. I hope everyone has a great day. I pray that I get some sleep. And, well, he's going to buy me food the next time we're here.
Also, go Gryffindor.
Go Gryffindor.
Go Gryffindor.